Hi friends! I've got some plants that are in desperate need of potting up, and I got some really beautiful pots for it this weekend. I'm super excited to show you. Let's do it. I have two bromeliad plants that really need to be potted up, and I'm wanting to hang them. So I found these beautiful hanging planters. I got two of these that matched, and I thought these would be really cute to hang in our sun porch. Next up, I got this gorgeous matte blue planter. I love the color, I love the ridges. There's also a stopper in the bottom, so I can take that out if I want drainage, or I can leave it if I want it to be watertight. I also got this smaller size in a bluish gray color, so I'm super excited to use these. Next up, I got something really fun. This is the saucer for the bottom, and then the pot itself looks like a mug or a teacup, which I love. I'm thinking to put this in our little coffee nook. It'll be so perfect. Last but not least, I got this gorgeous bust style pot. I don't even know what I'm gonna put in this yet, but I don't care. It's so beautiful. I had to get it. So here are the bromeliad plants we're potting up today. I propagated this one from the pineapple on our last plant. I just cut off the top and popped it in some water, and it's rooting so well. We are also potting up these succulents today. They're clearly very leggy and not thriving, and I'm wanting to kind of combine all these into a cute little arrangement, cut off the long stems, and just clean it up and give it a refresh. I am starting with these hanging planters for my bromeliad plants. Unfortunately, there's no drainage in these, so I am going to start by grabbing some rocks from our yard and popping those in the bottom. This just helps everything drain a little bit better, especially if you have a picky plant that doesn't like to be waterlogged. And I'm just using regular old potting mix for this. I'm being really careful with these cords because they look like some kind of natural hemp or twine, so I'm not letting them touch the soil line because I want to be careful to not risk getting any dirt or moisture on these knots. That could cause them to break down, the cords to break, and my pot to fall and smash everywhere. So I'm just being mindful of that soil line as I take my bromeliad plant and nestle it in here. I make sure all the knots are tight, and I'm filling around the outside and compressing so everything is settling nicely. Time for our second little bromeliad baby. I am planting up the one that we propagated this time. One thing to note also is if your soil is dry, make sure that you pre-moisten it. I'm not doing that here because this bagged soil was already pretty moist, but if you put your plants in super bone dry soil, it's not going to want to soak up when you water it, and then it's going to be hard to get that soil initially moist. So I like to pre-moisten before I fill my pot if my bagged soil is dry. This was a little bit tricky because these bromeliad plants are actually kind of pointy, so it's a little bit hard to get underneath them without stabbing yourself. It's a lot easier to do with an extra set of hands. All right, these babies are all done, and I'm so excited to hang them up. Next up, I am taking on these succulents. Clearly they are not thriving. They're looking pretty leggy. I haven't been great at watering these, so they've suffered a little bit, and I think they just need more space anyway. So I had this idea to do a cool arrangement with these succulents all together in one pot. Like I said, they're very leggy, so I'm gonna cut them down quite a lot and let the stems reroot in their new soil. This can be a little intimidating if you've never done it before. It feels like you are going to destroy your plants, but don't worry, they do rebound and they'll look so much better with healthy, fresh growth. So I'm starting by separating everything at the roots, and then I'll go in and start clipping these stems. If there's gaps where leaves have fallen off, I'll go ahead and cut the stem there. Otherwise, I'm looking for healthy new growth, and then I'll strip the leaves off the stem below that growth and cut the stem there. Basically, I'm planning for any of the sections of stem without leaves to be under the soil line. This is where the new roots will form. I'm also checking for healthy growth by making sure that the leaves aren't shriveled. If there's leaves that are soft or shriveled, I'm going to take those off. As I'm doing this, I'm also trying to come up with a variety of stem lengths just for the look of the arrangement. I don't want everything to be on the same level, so I'm trying to cut different sections of different sizes that will make it look aesthetic and interesting once it's arranged. Because succulents like to be on the drier side, I'm using a cactus potting mix which drains really well. It is bone dry right now though, so I am adding a little bit of moisture, again just so that soil doesn't get hydrophobic and reject water when I try to water them. So now I'm just going to go in and tuck the pieces of my first succulent in and build kind of a framework for this arrangement. I started with the biggest pieces and then worked towards the smaller pieces. I'm trying to leave space for the other type of succulent in there and just provide some different heights next to each other and different sizes next to each other. Now that I've got this initial framework for the arrangement, I am going to go in and go through the same process of clipping my other succulents. I decided to do this stem by stem so I could kind of decide how high I wanted everything and where I wanted everything. I stripped my leaves off as I was arranging and just experimented with where everything looked best. I do want to mention that I kind of skipped a step here. It is recommended that you give your cuttings a few days to callus over before introducing any moisture. I obviously didn't do this, but I thought I would mention it in case you decide to try doing this. My potting soil was just barely damp and I basically let it dry out for a week before I added any more moisture after planting these cuttings. And these plants did totally fine and have actually already started rooting in. But if you want to have the best shot at preventing any stems from rotting, I would let them dry out for a few days before planting. That's it. This is my finished arrangement. I love it so much and I can't wait to see how it grows. I hope you enjoyed this video and I'll see you next time.